Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here to talk about a topic so important to our future, inclusion and belonging. My name is Martin Cooper, and I'm the founder of Orcus Arts. Previously, I led design teams for brands like Burberry, Belstaff, and Lands' End. During my tenure, I spent a lot of time reflecting about my own career path and how I could help inspire others to forge their own. From a very young age, I knew that I wanted to be in fashion. Fashion picked me in a sense, but I had a different path to get there. It started with my grandmother. She graduated from Pratt Institute in 1922 in clothing construction, which was the precursor to fashion design. Think about it. A woman of color from the South going north at a time when most women, regardless of race, had no higher degree of education. My grandmother lived next door to us. She was the one who bought me my first sewing machine. She was the one who taught me how to draft patterns. She was the one who taught me never trust a ruler, always trust your eye, because there's not one single straight line on the human body. This is something that has always stayed with me throughout my career. Clothing must be ergonomic to the body. So I knew about Pratt. So long story short, I had a cousin who told me about this school called Parsons School of Design. My mother, who advocated for me, reached out to Parsons to say, I have this child who's sketching collections from day into evening. What the heck do we do with him? So they said, send us examples of his work. So let me remind you, this was way before email and PDFs, so we had to mail sketches to Parsons. And about 2 months later, my mother got a call from the chair of the fashion department, and she said, we love Martin's work. We'd be delighted to have him attend our college level summer program. Mom said, great. And then it sunk in and she said, but Martin's only 14. The chair said, he's only 14. So they negotiated and I was eventually granted special permission to go to New York and attend the summer program at Parsons. That action would change my life. I later went on to attend Parsons. Calvin Klein was my senior critic, and I started working for him shortly after graduation, and I was off to the races. Today, I own Orcus Arts, a consulting firm that helps companies build brand strategies that drive lasting change. I also serve as a third-party mentor to high potential executives of color. Earlier this year, I was tapped by Tom Ford to be a founding member of the CFDA's Black Advisory Board. So I'm personally invested in helping drive change in the fashion industry. And today, I'm excited to have an inspiring conversation with 3 powerhouses at Gap Inc. who are doing just that. Thanks to a growing consciousness around issues like social justice, gender equality, and climate change, consumers expect more from their favorite brands. In fact, 84% of consumers say it's important to them that a company supports charitable causes, and half of Americans would switch to a company that supports a cause they believe in. But these efforts need to go beyond just good marketing. Those that embrace diversity and foster inclusion in their staffing plans, from their C-suite to their storefronts, resonate more with consumers than those that don't. So listen very carefully. Here's the kicker. And they reap the benefits. So research also shows that companies in the top 25% of gender diversity outperform competitors by 15%. And those in the top 25% for ethnic and racial diversity outperformed their competitors by a whopping 35%. In other words, the richer and more diverse the gene pool is, the better companies perform. So jumping off from that, let's dive into a thoughtful discussion on why the inclusivity movement is so much more than just good marketing, and what Gap Inc. and its brands, Old Navy, Athleta, Gap, and Banana Republic, are doing to bring diversity to the bottom line of the business and into their products. So please welcome Baja Johnson, Head of Customer Belonging at Gap Inc., Alex Gardner, Senior Designer, Athleta, and Stephanie Factor, Technical Designer, Banana Republic. Welcome, everyone. I'm coming to you from Old Chatham, New York. It's a beautiful sunny day out, and wherever you are dialing in from, we hope that it's beautiful where you are. I'm super excited to be here with these lovely, super talented ladies who are making change at Gap Inc. It's going to be an amazing conversation. I would love to kind of hand the mic over and have everyone just introduce themselves. Baja?
Wonderful. Thank you, Martin, and thank you, everyone. So excited to be here. My name is Baja Johnson, and I am the head of customer belonging at Gap Inc. When people hear customer belonging, I think their first question is, what does that even mean? But for me, it is really a journey about keeping the customer at the heart of everything that I do. As part of the Gap Inc. Equality and Belonging team, I lead the pillar responsible for making sure that all of our brands really think about what it means to be best product, best experience in nature with an inclusive filter. So across our family of brands around the world, really fulfilling our responsibility to do more than sell clothes, absolutely, but to make sure that no matter who you are or what you look like, you feel welcome in our family of brands. So when it means to belong as a customer, it means that you are really part of our family. So excited to continue leading this work, excited to leverage a lot of the work that our company has been doing around true equality and belonging, and excited to talk with my colleagues here because we've got some exciting stuff, and this is passion and personal for all of us.
Terrific. That's amazing. Alex, we'd love to hear about you.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I'm Alex. I'm Senior Designer at Athleta. So I've been with the company about a year. And I was recently lucky enough to work with Alison Felix on the launch of her capsule with the brand. And I have to say, it's probably one of the favorite projects that I've worked on throughout my career. And one that's just felt so important to me on so many different levels. It was such a great opportunity for the brand to put its full focus on a collection that's felt really strong and really beautiful, as well as being as inclusive as we could have made it at the time. And also just an amazing showcase of Alison as the role model and the spokeswoman that she is. And yeah, a bit of a full circle moment for me personally to have been able to work with her, someone who I've followed for years throughout her track career, as well as it just being a great opportunity to enrich Athleta as a brand. So really happy to be here.
Terrific. Amazing. Welcome. And Stephanie?
Thank you, Martin. Hi, guys. My name is Stephanie Factor. I actually work as a technical designer for Banana Republic, a brand within the Gap community, Gap Inc. family. I've been with the company for 2.5 years. I'm also the designer behind the launch for Gap Collective. I did their Vogue t-shirt and Stand United, which happens to be a project of mine very close to my heart because it's really about products with purpose and amplifying voices. So happy to be here with all of you guys.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So we're going to kind of jump right into it. To put it simply, being an inclusive company isn't optional. Thanks to a growing consciousness around issues like social justice, gender equality, and climate change, consumers expect more from their favorite brands. In fact, 84% of consumers say that it's important to them that a company supports charitable causes, and half of Americans, would switch to a company that supports a cause they believe in. That's a lot. But these efforts need to go beyond just good marketing. Companies must dig deeper. Those that embrace diversity and foster inclusion in their staffing plans, from their C-suite to their storefront, resonate more with consumers than those that don't. So listen carefully, here's the kicker. And they reap the benefits. So everyone wins. Research shows that companies in the top 25% for gender diversity outperform their competitors by 15%. And those in the top 25% for ethnic and racial diversity outperform their competitors by 35%. In other words, the richer and more diverse the gene pool is, the better companies perform. So jumping off from that, let's dive into a thoughtful discussion on why the inclusivity movement is so much more than just good marketing. So I'm excited to be joined by you guys, and let's just get into it. So Baja, it was so enlightening to learn about your game-changing thought leadership. In 2018, I believe, you co-founded the ColorCrowd Council, Gap Inc.'s first product inclusion initiative, with the goal of tackling bias in the product pipeline from the way designs are sketched to the creation of actual products themselves. So a few questions for you. What compelled you to form the council? How was it received by the company? And why has it been instrumental in driving change for the brand and for you professionally?
Martin, you're leading with one of my favorite questions because, as I said in my intro, this work is incredibly, incredibly personal. I think it is no secret when you look at me, I am a Black woman. I have been a Black woman my entire life. And when I walk into the Gap Inc. corporate offices, I don't take that hat off, right? It's something that I walk with every single day. And when I started the company, I started 8 years ago as part of the rotational management program, which is a training program for future leaders of the company in merchandising, inventory management, and production. And when I graduated from the program, I had merchandising roles across Gap brand and Banana Republic. But if you could only imagine, right, back in 2012, which doesn't seem so long ago, but back in 2012, when I walked into that building as a Black woman, I found myself to be one of the few merchants of color in my brands. And when you think about the impact of that, both psychologically and professionally, there's kind of compounding interest there, right, around what it means to bring your full self to work. When I was sitting day to day in product meetings, I think people don't recognize right away the power of a collective, diverse voice and how that immediately impacts the product. But there were many moments where, not intentionally, but just by nature of the room, I recognized early on that we were having conversations that didn't represent the diversity of our customer base. And one of my favorite examples, and I think it really resonates with people when I say it, is as product leaders, we talk about colors all the time. And we'd be in color reviews or product reviews, and if a shade of, say, khaki or peach came up in question, oftentimes the conversation would turn to, we have to be careful, team. We need to make sure that it doesn't make our customer look too fleshy, or it's too nude, it's too close. And again, as a Black woman, dark brown skin, right? I knew, it was no secret, again, that comment did not reflect me as a consumer. I didn't feel always empowered to talk about that in the day-to-day. And when I didn't bring my whole self to work, I was leaving our customers who look just like me on the table. You're leaving money on the table by not having perspectives that represent all of your customer base. And, again, it's not always easy to bring your full self to work. And the concept of that, I think, is coming into light more readily within our industry. But at the time, I had two corporate parents who very much were intentional about the advice they gave me when I walked into Gap Inc. They said, your name is Baja. You are 6 feet tall in heels. You have hair down to here. You're going to stick out no matter what. And you need to make it for the right reasons. So when I walked into those rooms and those conversations, I was focused on being a damn good merchant. I did not want to be known as the Black merchant. Right. But what I think in hindsight now we would all agree on is that there is so much value to bringing your full self to that moment. There's such a power in making things real for people when your differences are brought to the room. And the ColorCrowd Council for me was that connection of bringing my expertise in merchandising and really finding the strength to bring my full self to the table. So the purpose and the initiative around ColorCrowd, you talk about the first product inclusion initiative, but it was personal because there were two components to it. It was first and foremost, we're going to bring diversity to the bottom line of the business by thinking about our product education and our pipeline. So how we train our teams to make product, but then the pipeline itself and breaking it apart, turning over every rock and looking at what we could rebuild with inclusion as a really important and pivotal input to the process. But we also said, let's take a look at the actual composition of our product teams. So thinking about talent acquisition and retention on those teams responsible for bringing product to life. Because it's one thing to have a team that reflects your customer base. It's another thing for that team to feel empowered to stay and drive and grow within the organization. Acquisition and retention go hand in hand because that's how people stay and move. And again, those conversations that we've seen in the marketplace around, was somebody in the room? Oftentimes I say probably, but did they be empowered to have a voice and empowered to have that voice heard and actioned on in these pivotal moments where, again, your superpower is making things very real for people? That is the differentiator. That is the turning factor. And that's what I hope the council has been able to bring to the organization over the last few years. It's saying, like, we have an obligation on both the product and the talent side to bring voices into the room so that our customers benefit. And you talked earlier, Martin, about reaping the benefit. There is money on the table, right? Consumers spend. I thank God for Rihanna every single day for showing the power of Fenty, because she changed the game by really giving people that higher order benefit of seeing themselves in the stalls of Sephora. Like that, you cannot quantify that before the fact, right? I don't think she could have ever imagined the amount of money she would be able to cultivate for her brand and for her company beforehand, because there was no standard for that. But afterwards, she rewrote the book and she set the standard because she gave power to the voices who hadn't been seen before. So my hope and drive is that the council really helped open doors for the conversation. When you talk about how was it received, I think about the many, many, many people across the organization who were like, yes, yes, and that to me showed that what I was doing and what me and my co-founder were doing, it wasn't revolutionary in nature, but there was a secret sauce of divine timing. Again, thank you, Rihanna, and just enough momentum within the organization to bring it to life. I also would be remiss to not talk about the power of advocacy and allyship, because I recognize that the safe space that my leaders cultivated for me in that moment when I had the notion to do this was the game changer for me when things got hard. So Mark Breitbart, who is now the president and CEO of Gap Brand, was the president and CEO of Banana Republic at the time. And he was the first person in a very long time to say, I see you and I want to hear from you. I want to hear about your experience, and I promise you I will cover you as you go throughout this journey. That is as important as having the notion itself. So again, I think you can tell when I talk about it, it is personal and I'm passionate because it means that we've done something that has legs. And now in this moment, in this racial reckoning, we can push it and we can make people uncomfortable as we go, but we're pushing it because it's work that matters.
Amazing. Wow. Super inspiring. And I feel your passion coming through so loud and clear. Would you recommend that other businesses or brands form similar councils to kind of ensure inclusivity is top of mind in the product creation process from start to finish?
Absolutely, right? Without question, I would say absolutely. But I have a caveat here. And I think the caveat is some of the things that I talked about earlier, right? Advocacy is huge. I think you would all be kind of remiss to not note that we are 3 Black women on this call, right? Talking to you, Martin. We are 4 African-American individuals right now having this conversation. We can't talk to ourselves in these buildings, right? We recognize that our corporations have opportunities around inclusion. So it cannot just be the people of color in the room having the conversation. So you need advocates, and you need advocates with a voice and reach. And so I would say absolutely start the council, but get that advocacy up here because it's going to be the people who are speaking for you when you are not in the room that might make the most difference, in addition to having the doers and the goers and the people who are on the ground making it happen, right? The grassrootsness of it all. That momentum is fiery and cannot be ignored. So the groundswell is real, but that advocacy is the secret sauce.
Wow, absolutely, completely agree. In brands that really want to make change, it has to happen at the CEO level or the board level, and that's what you're feeling. You're feeling embraced in that way, and that's an amazing thing. So, Alex, as a senior designer on the Athleta team, you worked closely on a collaboration with U.S. Olympian Allison Felix last year as part of the brand's Power of She movement, which is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How was your experience of working with diverse, high-profile women like Allison influence your design process, kind of, from fit all the way through to fabric?
Totally. Yeah, I feel like I don't know if I can follow Baja's passion and all the important things she just said. But yeah, from my own point of view, it was a super special project, as I said, to be able to work with someone like Allison, someone who I followed throughout her whole career. And, now it's just seeing how strong her voice has become in standing up for what she thinks and what she believes in is just super exciting and impressive. She's really making a stand for women, pregnant women, mothers, athletes, wives. And I think that's what's been so kind of impactful about the Power of She campaign that Athleta have just launched. And yeah, just working with Allison, I feel like she kind of intentionally and unintentionally became a bit of our muse in the time that we spent leading up to the project and throughout. So we got to spend a bit of time watching her train and just move and run. And it gave us a real snapshot into kind of how much dedication and strength really goes into being one of the fastest women on the planet, which isn't a light title, I guess. And yeah, that being said, like designing for a gold medal winning athlete comes with a lot of pressure, of course. And so just making sure that the clothes really worked and really functioned and felt good and, looked great and did all the things was, something just invaluable to have her to have her input on that process. So really just learning what feels best for her body was just, the aim of the collection, I guess.
So how do you make, this level of detail shine through in the products themselves? And, what is that differentiator between your competitors and how what you're building into the product resonates with your consumers?
Yeah, I think the crux of it is that every style needs to function, and it's pretty much the number one priority with active apparel, making sure that it really works. And so a focus on creating garments that are comfortable and completely distraction-free was always going to be the most important thing. And I feel like that really showed itself in just the attention we gave to seaming placement and finishing and refining the fit through so many different rounds of trials and tests to make it as perfect as possible. And I think a big advantage as well that we have as a brand is the fact that we have so many women on the team. It really is a women designing for women situation, and really us doing what we can do to meet the needs of a woman's body. And I think that approach in itself really sets us apart from many of the male-led activewear brands in the market. And I think it's also part of the reason why the project has felt so important. A partnership like this really speaks to the stance that the Athleta brand takes as a whole around empowering women and empowering girls and really prioritizing solving their needs above anything else.
Amazing. Wow. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Martin.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So earlier this year, or this fall, you designed a limited edition capsule collection of Stand United and Vote Tees as part of a larger Gap campaign to close the age and race gaps at the polls and get out the vote. So this is very important. Can you tell us more about this initiative, the inspiration behind the design, and why this campaign was so important to you?
Yeah, so Gap Collective Tee is made up of products with purpose. And when they came up to me and asked me if I could design a shirt for the Stand United and Vote t-shirts, I had to jump on it. Like, you know, this was the opportunity to express my voice in the tone of design. And I'm definitely a person that likes to be vocal. But when it comes to designing, like I let design speak for me. And I think it's really hard just growing up to find your voice, and people don't realize that their voice can be, and it can be expressed in so many different ways. And fashion to me is art. So when it came to designing the Vote t-shirt and the Stand United shirt, after the year that we had, you know, I know how important, and I've expressed to so many people just working remotely and working with my teams, how important it is to be heard and to be connected throughout this year. You know, we're all in this remote lifestyle and trying to navigate this new way of living. And we also need to make sure and check in on our colleagues that, you know, we understand everything. We're here for you. How can we help you? What is your voice? And when I designed the Vote t-shirt specifically, the V is made up of puzzle pieces that represent all of us coming together. You know, the E is protest signs because we had protests all throughout the year. The T is a street bird's eye view of Black Lives Matter because of the moment that we're creating together. And then the Stand United shirt is all of us coming together protesting and just, you know, standing united for the one thing we all have in common, and that's equality for each other and the opportunity to be heard. This project was very close to my heart because I grew up in a mixed background, mixed household with in Canada. So it was very different. I come from a very diverse background. I'm half Asian, half Black. And there were so many times where I went to school or walked in a room, came to work, and I just felt like I could never vocalize who exactly I was. Like I'm told to, like, you know, straighten your hair, be quiet, just listen to what everyone's saying and do your work. And that's not how things are done these days. That's not how we succeed. We succeed by being a team, by being a voice, a seat at that table to help make those decisions that need to be made. And when I did the t-shirt, both t-shirts, you know, this was my opportunity to influence other people, that you can find your voice in any platform or medium possible, you know, whether it's in the tone of design or in music or being vocal or in, you know, just any way possible. You just have to get out there, say something loud. That's something I've said all throughout the year to everybody. Just say something loud, you know, and everyone's going to hear you. Everyone's going to be on board, and it's going to influence more people to be loud, just as loud. And we need to be heard. So the loudest, the better.
So thank you for that. So finding your voice is one of the most empowering moments a person can experience. So what is it like to work for a brand who champions that, you know, who encourages its employees to speak out on topics they're passionate about? Like, how has that influenced you and working at the Gap and your productivity and creativity?
So when I first started, I have my like employee picture with straight hair, lipstick, and, you know, subtle makeup, and just like a blazer. And then now I come in with like big hair, right? Big hair, all me. And, you know, it did take me a little while to find my voice in the workplace. And I found that with so many people around me that work in Gap. And the best part about it is that, like, you know, we all have a voice. Having the people around you to say, hey, Stephanie, you need to say something. You need to speak up. You need to be you. It just unleashes you inside. You know, you have all this influence around you, and it takes a great team. And to have a company that's supportive of that and to like put you in that environment, have ERGs within the community, you know, you have the people around you within your team and within the company that helps bring it out. And this company in particular, Gap, has connected me with so many people that can say, like, Stephanie was so quiet when I first met her, but now she never stops talking. And I think that's really important because the moment I started talking, people were listening, changes were happening. I am in rooms to help make decisions that, make positive change for all of us. And the more people that say something and come and vocalize what they stand for, more people are listening and on board with it. And Gap has definitely been on board.
Wow, that's amazing. So you're finding your voice helps to build your network, and your network helps to build your net worth.
Yes.
So you are a part of your network is your currency in how you navigate, whether it's personally or professionally. So it feeds into all facets of your life, which I think is fascinating. It's great. Thank you so much for that. So let's pivot for a moment. Let's talk about diversity and inclusion behind the scenes. So Baja, since starting the ColorCrowd Council, I believe 2 years ago, your mission has expanded beyond tackling bias in the product pipeline to addressing diversity and inclusion in talent acquisition and retention as well. You alluded to this a little bit earlier. And I'm passionate about this because it's very much aligned with the work that I do and I'm doing, mentoring high potential executives as they navigate through the corporate landscape. Retention becomes a very real factor with employees of color for a host of reasons. But I'd love to hear from you. What sparked this shift in the council's mission? And can you tell us about some of the changes that you've implemented at the company?
Absolutely. So, what's interesting is I think when you think about a council like the ColorCrowd Council, you hear Diversity Council, and I think at first you think it's about the employees, and it is for sure. Our original pivot was employees, yes, but let's focus it around the employees who are part of the product and really the experience-based functions. So designers, merchants, trend teams, tech design, marketing, right? Like let's get those people in a room. And you don't have to be a person of color to be part of the ColorCrowd Council. We just want those individuals in the room who are making the change happen day to day to start having conversations about pushing it forward with a diverse and inclusive lens. I think what made us different round two, though, was saying we're going to tackle the product and education in the pipeline, right, with these people in the room, but also we're going to add on the individuals who are actually helping to not only recruit for these specific teams, but also those who really are building the pipeline for talent management. So we had recruiters for creative teams and talent management professionals for these teams who were having conversations in tandem with the merchants and the designers, because that shared perspective really helped, I think, really illuminate for the company why the two go hand in hand. And again, I think it was probably unconventional in the moment to say, let's bring it together, but it was so important and impactful to really speak to the personal nature of what Alex, Stephanie, and I have all talked about, is that it's one thing to be part of the room. It's another thing to be part of the room and then really, again, feel empowered to speak and empowered to move and empowered to go and grow. So that was really kind of the intention around bringing the two together. And I think what it actually did, which is funny, Stephanie talked about network and net worth, is that a lot of the teams have taught each other in this moment, right? I have learned so much from my friends in tech design and my recruiter friends about like the pipelines they're utilizing and the conversations they're having. There's such a shared collective of power and influence there that has really been honestly intangible in my learning journey as a leader, right? Because, I started the ColorCrowd Council as a merchant, and now pivoting into customer belonging, my reach and my impact and my point of view has to encompass all parts of the pipeline. I don't think I would have been empowered to do that and have that seat without what I've learned from my peers in these moments. So the collective around all of the pieces that come together to bring this work to life, especially for the council, are so important. I think the pivot round 3, which is where we are right now, and all of equality and belonging, is that in order to really go deep and make systemic change, we recognize that the investment had to be there in really 3 key verticals that allow us to show up and show out, right? So you've got equality and belonging in total, but the 3 pillars are customer belonging, which I lead, again, best product, best experience with an inclusive filter. Employee belonging, led by Maria Febre, who really has been a veteran of the company herself, but is really focused on workforce and workplace inclusion, as well as really thinking about what it means for all of our groups, headquarters and stores to show up and bring their full selves to work. Incredibly, incredibly important work. The last pillar really is community belonging, led by, again, another Gap Inc. veteran, Keisha Golding. And the community belonging piece is about what does it mean for Gap Inc. to show up as a force for good in the industry, while also thinking about what it means to create access and pipeline for all individuals, not just those on the product teams, but across the company. How can we provide access for all people? And so in having the 3 pillars and actually growing our team from 3 to 20 within those pillars, we're able to really be maniacal now about the ColorCrowd Council's focus and say talent acquisition and retention has to be maximized across all of Gap Inc. So let's go deep on product and experience. And we are really doubling down on what it means, especially post-COVID, right? The world has changed a million ways to Sunday. We know that. So how do we stay on the forefront of product and customer experience innovation, still keeping inclusion top of mind, still having all the inputs, but driving forth? So I think the beauty of the council, and again, Martin, you talked about our first few rounds of iteration, but the beauty of the council is we're moving with the industry. And that's important because inclusion, again, has to be an input in those moments.
You bring a lot of energy to the table. But here's the big question. How can others replicate your success? Because I think that's important. So, like, in other words, like, what are some real steps businesses can take to create lasting change and avoid engaging in performative action around D&I? What are some of these steps that they can take?
Oh, I always say go where the energy is. It is really, really easy to get distracted by systems and places that aren't ready to move yet. It is very easy. I have been a victim of it as well, of really focusing on, well, that person wasn't with me in that meeting, or this feels like a roadblock. What am I gonna do? And one of my favorite mentors, Michelle Nyrup, told me very early on in my journey, you cannot focus your time and energy there. There are so many people who want to be part of this work with you and in places that you might not always expect it. Go find those people because they will empower you and give you more of the vision and the light to move you forward. And again, that's why I have to give power in my own network and my collective, right? Because I've gotten energy from some of the places that I never would have expected to, and met so many different types of people through the council work that all I can do is focus my time and energy there. So I would say in organizations that feel super big, right? Because Gap Inc. is a ship, it's a machine. In organizations that feel super big, find your pockets of good energy, right? Because those are the things that are gonna sustain you when it's time to push a little harder.
It's great. That's great. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. Alex, we're going to jump back to stats for a moment. So research shows that employees who work with managers who foster an inclusive environment are 17% more likely to report that they are high performing, and 29% more likely to report they're working more collaboratively. As a senior member of a creative team, how do you ensure everyone feels seen and heard? And as a leader, what advice can you share for cultivating an inclusive work environment?
Yeah, I think really just kind of piggybacking off what Stephanie and Baja have said, I would say the example comes from the standards that the brand sets as a whole. You know, that's the way my manager works with me, the way her manager works with her, and so on. It's really like helped me to be part of a brand who supports that and is really invested in that kind of improvement and progress in that area. You know, it really needs to kind of come from the top and the philosophy of the company. And I feel like that's been, I guess, the company being an advocate for that work has really, really helped. So it takes so much time and so much work to make these changes and to kind of combat what's been deemed normal, processes we've stuck to in the past, ways we've worked, way we've approached things. And so it's just not losing sight of that work kind of taking effort, but being super important to kind of progress the company overall. And I think that's probably one of the biggest realizations that we've had as a community and as a company, the fact that change is only going to come from action and bravery and effort, and that doing nothing and kind of sitting back and being consistent won't necessarily solve any of the problems that we have right now. So I guess for me personally, just really focusing on empowering the teams to be honest, to really speak up when they have something important to say, when they disagree with something, when they've got a better idea or a unique approach to anything that we're working on. And it really all starts from there. So I think every day we're still learning to be better at that, including myself and probably everybody in this conversation. It's a continual process of just getting better at that, and just protecting time and carving out space for people to prioritize and analyze, the way we work and the way we look at things and how the brand shows up. So, living the brand message, I guess, in an authentic way is what we're really trying to get to.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's amazing. Stephanie, in addition to your role as a technical designer at Banana Republic, you're on the leadership team of the ColorCrowd Council, and you are a member of the employee-led AfricanAmerican Network Group. Can you tell us more about this group, its mission, and why it's such an important organization within the company?
Yeah, so I've actually been part of AANG, we call it, for a little over a year. I think September marked my 1 year on the employee group. And our mission is to provide a safe space. Like Baja mentioned earlier, it's the energy, show up and show out. That's literally like the motto we chose for 2020, ironically. But it's been a space where people can come together, celebrate, be their authentic self, talk, network, engage with one another, and also see representation of of themselves. I think that's really important in a company. You want to be able to be inspired by seeing these leaders that are also people of color as a person of color in a company. You're walking in and you want to have a role model to look up to, and to know that a company has these groups, these employee network groups. These are groups formulated and created to provide that support with one another. Our ANG has been amazing and very close to my heart, because I told you I was raised in a mixed family, and I wasn't really, part of my dad's family so much growing up. I was always in Canada, and my dad's American. So when I came to Gap and I heard I actually just stumbled in a cafe, and they were having an event going on, and I was like, how can I be more involved in this? And then I got involved. I became the event committee co-chair, and I now help sit and create ideas for these events to bring people together. And we've actually been doing a lot of the work virtually because of how work has been. And with 2020 and all the events that have happened and the social injustice, we needed to be there for each other. Working from home is hard, because usually when you're at work, you work. When you go home, you're supposed to be at peace. You're supposed to be at home. Now that working is remotely, it's like there's no difference between working from home and working at home. It's all the same. So it's like you want to be connected as close as possible to get your work done, but then you also have to deal with everything that's going on in society. And it's been really hard this year. And I noticed, like, the more events we have, the more coming together we were able to do. It's like when I am on these meetings with AANG and the leadership team and also our members, it's nice because I'm literally sitting instead of a Zoom meeting, I'm sitting with family. I'm sitting with that support. We're building relationships and partnerships with allies. We're partnering with other ERG groups in our company and finding more ways to be connected. And I think if 2020 has done anything for this company this year, it has definitely brought us more together. And I think that's really important, because I live in San Francisco, and like I said, my family, my mom's side is in Canada, my dad's side is in the East Coast. So it's, San Francisco isn't home for me. but ANG members and the leadership team has made it home, and it's made it possible.
That is amazing. That is amazing. So what advice could you share for anyone who's looking to form a networking group within their organization? And how can companies and businesses, brands help facilitate those groups? If you could break down the steps for me, I have my notepad out. I'm ready to take notes.
I really believe in energy, like Baja mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
When you feel something and it's an energy, it's a vibe. There's so many things to call it nowadays, but it's something you cling to, and you realize there are so many people that share that exact same energy that will be your drive, that will give you your energy back when you don't have energy no more. That will help be the voice when you can't speak, or help you find your voice, And I think that when you get to know your company, you get to understand your work. You also get to explore the employees here and make connections. And it's all about network, When you have ERGs, you're finding similar traits that people have in goals, and you have a common purpose. I think as companies and businesses, to help facilitate allowing space and time. And I think that's been very important this year, especially working from home. I'm going to go back to working from home because we've all been doing it for the last 8 months. Like our company specifically, they allow this time on our calendar. So if we have these meetings, we're able to step aside from what we're doing and gather with each other. It's been something that brought us connected with one another, and they know that this has been a really tough year on all of us, on everyone. Parents are now teachers, and roommates are basically siblings. But it's just we need that space, we need that time, and finding those allies and those advocates. It's been really helpful and great, and I implore every company to have these groups inside their network, because it has brought it has made so many decisions and allowed a diverse mindset to come to the table. And I think a company wins with its family. So.
Wow, so powerful on so many levels, so powerful. So I want to talk about Black Lives movement. And so businesses are having long overdue conversations about making diversity a priority in the hiring process. One step Gap Inc. has taken is to publicly share how employees identify their race and ethnicity. I think it's quite rare. Why is this transparency so important? And how can we continue to reduce the barrier to entry and further equalize opportunities in the workplace? This is like an open question. So whoever has a thought, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I can start. I think it just comes down to transparency with data, offering employees and customers the tools it needs to hold brands accountable. So accountable for the work they're doing and for the promises they've made. Since the Black Lives Matter movement has kind of come to the forefront this year. And I think it just helps to prioritize that work that we've all been talking about in putting those changes into place. And I think, gone are the days when brands are sort of held on this untouchable pedestal. I think now consumers are so much closer to them, and it's so important to their growth and their success, to have kind of customers on board with them and to see them as companies that are doing good and that are honest and are doing things for the right reasons. So, people now can choose where to vote with their time and their money and their attention. So, there's really nowhere to hide for brands that don't show up well from every different point of view. So I would say, just being public with that data really holds brands true to the changes that they say they're going to make. And I think Gap Inc. is one of those.
I definitely agree with Alex. It definitely holds companies accountable, but also the company is doing the research. If they're going to be transparent, they're going to make sure the data that they're providing is accurate. So they're going to do the research behind it. And sometimes you don't realize things until you sit down and do the work and you put in the research, you know? I think it was eye-opening for all of us, but also the people that done the research to be able to be so transparent and see the numbers and see the changes that need to be made. I think once you get that data out there, we can all look at it as a company and be like, okay, now what do we improve? How can we change this? There are gonna be more people coming forward and saying, hey, this isn't right, or this is right. And all those people coming forward are gonna be able to get on board with the change that the company is promising.
I think just to piggyback, you know, you two have talked a real truth about the power of the consumer and the customer, right? But I think the other thing that we would be remiss to say is that we are all also employees of Gap Inc. that are part of those numbers that we reported out on. So I think there is a balance of customers as stakeholders and employees as stakeholders. And so the dual responsibility that happens when you're so transparent is that it's not just up to the disenfranchised to move this work forward. It puts the responsibility on the different areas of the company to make sure that we hold to our commitment of doubling those representation numbers for Black and Latinx employees by 2025. That is not just the Equality and Belonging team's responsibility, is not the ColorCrowd councils, the network groups, right? It's everyone's responsibility. So employees will hold us accountable in addition to our customers asking for that transparency and holding us accountable as well.
And actually staying with you, Baja, I'd love to talk about the future of inclusivity in fashion as a quick pivot. One of the ColorCrowd Council's first major wins was the launch of True Hughes, a collection of skin tone undergarments and accessories in different shades of nude. And you touched on it earlier. I wanted just to go back to this for a quick moment. The line beat sales expectations by double digits.
We like money. I'm just kidding. We like receipts.
And that's okay. But what it did, it proved that there was a need for continued diversity and inclusion within the fashion industry. And so I always say there was the age-old argument that, you know, merchants always were, you know, would always say, you got to pare down the SKUs, got to pare down the SKUs, and guess what shades would always get dropped. So realizing that there's still a very long way to go. What are your hopes for the future of fashion?
This is one of my favorite questions because I have a very simple answer. The future of fashion is to make inclusion the standard. And I say that with, again, passion and fortitude, because True Hughes to me is a glowing example of that. I know I joke about, you know, we like money, we like receipts, but I think the root of that is showing that there is power in doing good, right? There is power in having inclusion be key to how we do what we do. You don't fold it in, you don't, you know, make a little bit of space for it, you make it part of the winning strategy. Somebody recently said to me, and I loved it, they were like, when you bake a cake, right? If you use cake as an analogy, and I'm a baker, so I enjoy using cake in any sense of the word. When you think about the cake, right now, racism is the eggs. You cannot just take the eggs out of a baked cake and say, here we go, we have a finished product. You gotta have a whole new recipe. And I think that's where, if you think about the work of the ColorCrowd Council, you think about the work that Gap Inc. is doing around making inclusion integral to how we do what we do. An example like True Hughes to me is a whole new cake. It's a whole new recipe. We had to think differently from end to end about how we brought this product to life. We had to say things like, okay, if we're making different shades of product for a different range of people, and we don't have all of those shades represented on just, say, the color team or the design team, let's go find the people in the building that could help us have a wider perspective. Let's actually take the time and build it into the pipeline to match the shades, and go back to the color team and go back to the factories to make sure that across our fabric base, because we've got tanks and shoes and bodysuits across all those different fabrics, we have time to iterate on color to get it just right. We then have time when we're having a fit review to make sure that, again, if we're making shapewear bodysuits, that we don't just fit on the normal size 2 to 4. Let's make sure that this is truly inclusive for the range of women who will be wearing the suits. Because believe you me, I don't think people know this, but the majority of women in the US are a size 16 and above. That is not the average that most of us fit on, right? That is not the average of what we see in the marketplace. So we have to rewrite the rule book, again, bake a new cake, to make sure that we build in time to have that. And then on the back end, we need to invest time and money and resources in having different models be part of the equation. Actually, Stephanie would probably hate that I am embarrassing her, but for the Banana Republic factory store iteration of True Hughes, we utilized real employee models, and Stephanie was one of them, right? Because it's about showing real women in real bodies and real sizes as part of the winning strategy. That is impactful. That is integral to the winning strategy. And so I go back to my simple answer of the future of fashion is you have inclusion be the standard, because now when you look at True Hughes, and it's not just a side initiative, it is a sub brand, an area of growth within Banana Republic that all functions are aligned on building and growing for the future of our customer across genders as well. We just in the last week launched a True Hughes face mask, a unisex face mask with 5 different shades, right? That's innovation and inclusion going hand in hand. We need face masks. True Hughes is part of our repertoire. You put the two together, and again, you're building on a business that has inclusion at the forefront. So again, I love the idea that we have so much more to go, because that just means that we have so much room to iterate and truly break and rebuild. And to go back to new cakes, right? Like we're going to bake a new cake and it's going to look way different than it did even a year ago, because we have different ingredients and we need them.
Wow. Wow. So powerful. And just tagging on to that for a moment, I think, you know, one thing that we're all hopefully realizing is that caring matters. And so how would you like to see the industry evolve to be more inclusive across race, religion, gender, size, we just talked about, sexual orientation, disability?
I think again, another simple answer, I think it starts with self. I think there are a lot of powerful people in the industry who, you know, after George Floyd, had to really reckon with themselves as to what their role in the future of the industry is going to look like with this new consciousness in mind around all of our differences. You know, when I think about the future and the role that we play in the industry, I think about the fact that if we're going to have inclusion be at the forefront of what we do, it starts with a personal reckoning. It starts with a moment of realization to just say, what is my contribution to the future that I want to see? And I think post George Floyd, that reckoning got really real for people, right? You know, I talked earlier about the fact that I am a Black woman. That is very apparent to me, but there are so many other ways and so many other communities that are underrepresented in our industry from a size standpoint, from a religion standpoint, right? The list goes on and on, from an ability standpoint. It is my responsibility, and I do not take that lightly, to make sure that in the room I am advocating for those individuals. But that consciousness had to come from doing the work, right? And digging in and getting comfortable being uncomfortable in conversations. My charge to the industry is to get very comfortable being uncomfortable and to take the time to have that reckoning, because a solution cannot thrive in the environment in which the problem was created. We can create councils, we can have mentorship programs, we can say we're going to usher in a whole new wave of people into our organization. But if we as the leaders in the organization don't take the time to rectify the culture in which we're cultivating, which starts with self, we're going to spit those individuals right back out. We're going to have them not really think about being their authentic selves. It's going to be our version of. So it is our responsibility, again, to start with self so that all of the different ways to feel included, all the different myriads of diversity and inclusion can come together in a way that really is sustainable and leads to systemic change.
Right. And it's so incredibly important, and it's so multifaceted, and you know, all of these pistons have to fire at the same time to bring about true change. But But as you were saying, it's really about looking within first, because without that reckoning, without that visibility about yourself and where you fit in this world, change is very hard to create without self-awareness.
And it's fleeting, right? You know, I think we would all admit that there is a consciousness that happened in June, July, August that has shifted now. And here we are 2 days after the election. And there are moments where I wonder how much of this momentum from June will carry us through to next year, will carry us through to systemic change. But that's why it's important to really take the time to figure out what systemic change and long-standing systemic change looks like for you and in your sphere of influence. It could be little subtle differences. As a leader, after the election, are you asking your teams if they are okay before talking about the business of the day? After George Floyd, if you have a Black employee, did you take a moment to pause and think about how they could be walking through the world that day before asking them to do their day-to-day business, right? Those are those little moments that may seem small, but they contribute to this broader change that we're all advocating for. That's the stuff that's not fleeting anymore. It's the stuff that really is systemic in nature. It's that shift that makes the difference.
So Baja, model size inclusivity has been a hot topic of conversation in the fashion industry for a long time. But in particular, thanks to a viral Instagram post back in September, it really shined a spotlight on the subject. As the head of customer belonging at Gap Inc., with many of your brands offering petites, tall, plus sizes, I'd love to hear your thoughts. How should companies respond to the call of action to make sizing more inclusive?
You know, I think, Martin, this goes back to inclusion being the standard. I think it's a reflection. We as an industry are responsible for reflecting our customer in everything we do. And size is such an incredible component of that. You know, as I spoke to earlier, most women in the US, I think the stat is 66% of women in the US are a size 16 and above. So it is our responsibility as an industry to reflect that in the products that we make and sell. And, you know, 2 of our brands have done a phenomenal job of doing this. And I say doing this well because they really made the notion of fitting clothes for these women, these average size women, they made that part of the entire process. It was not a matter of just having a model or scaling the sizing after putting the model in a size 2, right? A fit model. I'm alluding to tech design here, Steph. It really was about saying from the beginning of the process all the way through to the end, making sure that we had our end customer in mind. So the 2 brands are really Old Navy and the Size Yes campaign for women. Again, this was having women who were the average size, and I say that intentionally, at the beginning of the process on your trend boards, all the way through to thinking about how, as a woman shopping, the in-store experience would look. Because women who are average sized want to be able to go into a store and shop for their clothes with their friends who happen to maybe be a size 2 to 12.
That's right.
And so it was intentional for the brand to really think about that experience end to end. And actually, in doing a test of having true plus size product, and again, plus average size product in the store, they found that the entire store lifted in sales just from having a new product offering. It wasn't a matter of taking SKUs away to make room for this product. It was adding on products to bring a lift to the entire store, which I think is absolutely incredible. Similarly, Athleta has had such amazing performance in their relaunch of their plus size product, going from 1X to 3X. And I know Alex can probably talk a little bit more about that. But again, same notion of having inclusion and size inclusion be part of how we do what we do all the way throughout the process. It means that the end result is authentic to the user and the wearer.
Wow. Alex?
Yeah, completely agree. And I think, as I kind of mentioned earlier, you know, the Athleta product team is made up of an unusual amount of women. And, you know, as we know, women come in many shapes, many sizes, many skin tones, many ages. And so, you know, it's really significant that I think we approach products from that perspective. And it's such a kind of important prioritization for us. And, you know, for a long time, sports in totality really, and activewear has really prioritized development for men. And, you know, that's been the kind of key starting point for innovation. And so being able to flip that cadence is really important. And I think it's why it resonates with the customer so much. You know, we focus on women of different ages, and that starts with a super strong and growing girls business. And then we really want to hold on to and serve customers as they grow and age. And we've made such a lot of progress in extended sizing, really offering as much of the collection as we can to fit as many bodies. And that was also a key component to Alison's first collection with Athleta. You know, we fit on extended size models, offered as much of it as we could in as many sizes as we could. And that was something that, you know, we as a brand and Alison herself was super passionate to do. And at the end of the day, it comes down to the fact that, you know, being healthy, being confident and being heard just shouldn't be reserved for some women and not others. It's really something that we need to prioritize along the entire product process and just start to break down those obstacles and provide access and opportunity and good things to as many women and people as we can. So yeah, really, really important work.
Amen. Wow. So thank you so much for that. So let's play a game. Who's game to play a game? So let's do some quick sentence finishers. So I'm going to tee you guys up and just hit me with the first thing that comes to mind. So this is open to everybody. The three traits that got me where I am today are
Curiosity, passion, drive.
Tenacity, vision, purpose.
Love it.
I would say curiosity, echoing Stephanie's ambition probably. And yeah, just a genuine love for design. I don't think that's a trait, but that's important to me.
For sure, for sure.
Great. Okay, next one. Highlight of my career to date has been?
I would say I have two for this. One of them, I think, was shortly after the launch of Alison's collection. I spent some good hours stalking Alison's Instagram, and I feel like just seeing so many different women, so many different bodies, kind of outfitting and kind of celebrating the collection together felt really good and really what the collection was about. And my second one was learning that part of the collection got sent to Michelle Obama. So I don't know if she liked it or not, but I thought it was pretty cool to like get it in the hands of someone like her. So that was a bit of a highlight for me.
Michelle is watching. Send a picture. That's awesome.
I'll jump in. So a highlight, actually, I just joined ColorCrowd Council for Banana Republic. Baja would know this. It's actually like super exciting for me because this is just the beginning. So you guys might see my name on that list, but there's going to be so much work that's going to come to life with the team and with me being part of it. And I'm super thrilled and excited about it, especially as a technical designer who's also a person of color that works on fit. You know, that's been my passion, is about making things fit right, look good, and bringing exactly what a vision looks like in your head or on a sketch to life, and be able to have it for everyone and fit everyone. And then the second highlight would have been the Vote and Stand United shirt. You know, I think that in fashion used to be about wearing clothes that made you feel like you and look like you. You know, you used to be able to look at somebody walking down the street and kind of have an idea of who they are. It's been such a blur nowadays with social media and a bunch of influencers and all these different trends going out there. It's really hard to actually find who you are in your clothing. And I think with the Vote t-shirt and with the Stand United launching Gap Collective, these are products with purpose, and you know, there's voices behind all of that. And I hope just it amplifies other voices. You know, I hope people can see that there could be any means to any way to express who they are and amplify their voice, and then just be okay and be excited about everything that happens throughout life. You know, I think that it's really hard to find your voice in everything that you're doing, but I hope that those teas and the more teas that are coming down the line with Gap Collective, it inspires other people to be vocal and say something loud.
It's great. Baja?
I know mine are simple and you might make me cry, Stephanie,
Don't
but
stop it.
no, you make me cry because founding the ColorCrowd Council, because it was the first time somebody said, I see you for all of you. And that was really game changing because it's led me to be here. But then the excitement that you had when you said, I just joined the ColorCrowd Council and what it meant.
I was so excited. You know, I cried right after, right?
So color proud because it led to unlocking the best parts of me and hopefully bringing some of that to other people.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. This is my favorite. The best advice I ever received, ... Hit it.
It's not where you take things from, it's where you take them to. And it's actually a quote that I live by Jean-Luc Godard. And it's like, you know, it used to be a fashion quote to me. And I was like, okay, I could design everything. I get inspired by everything, but it also works in life, you know, influence comes from all over the place, you know, and what the best part about it is what you can do with it, where you can take it to, who can you influence, who can you inspire, and what change can come out of it.
Love that. Alex?
I would say a quote I kind of live by also is, it's not over until it's over, because I feel like, to me, I just read it as like, there's always an opportunity to just do more, keep pushing, keep going, make a difference. And just when you think it's too late, it's never too late. So that's a quote that I like carry with me all the time. It's never too late.
It's over. Right.
Exactly.
Baja?
Make it real for people. Your differences are your superpower. Use them to make it real for people.
Ooh, I love that. I love that
too. I'm going to use that one.
Okay. Okay, next. The future of fashion is?
Inclusive.
Yes.
I think it's all of us on this panel and everyone that shops. Like, fashion, it should be you. You know, you should be able to see, you should be able to buy clothes and see yourself in it and live your life. You know, fashion is a complement to life that we can be able to walk around, make memories, get married, have babies. You know, there's so many things that fashion is an add-on to, and it should be, and it's part of life. So.
Yeah, I really don't think I have one word. I would just say like an unknown, scary, and exciting space to evolve and innovate, I guess. Just an ongoing process and a journey. So,
yep, that's great. That's great. And so, lastly, social good means?
I would say making change because it's the right and the fair thing to do. And I feel like that needs to be the kind of driving force above anything else.
I would say standing united to make the impact that we need as a society together.
Social good is a movement, not a moment.
100%, 100%. So, ladies, I hate to tell you, but I think we're out of time. And we could sit and talk for hours more. I know it. But we need to wrap up. And I want to thank you, each of you, for sharing your amazing successes with us. And I know that the future is just paved with opportunity and brightness for each and every one of you. So Baja, Stephanie, Alex, thank you so much for joining me on this panel.
Thank you so much, Martin.
Awesome.
Thank you, Martin.